Hey guys, today we're going to be discussing electronic schematics, and they're kind of the roadmap to the electrical on a car. And honestly, once you can read these guys, it makes them a whole lot simpler. You know, it may look like spaghetti on there, but after you get a handle on the basics, it makes it easy to fix the cars, and makes it easy to fix them quickly, which that makes us more money. They can show us stuff like where to go and what to do. Once you get good at reading these, like me, I've got a lot of experience in this. I can look at a schematic and I can tell I should have this voltage on this wire at this time, and then I can go check that. Get it? Kind of tells us how things are put together, what's there and what's not, what controls the circuit, where's the fuse. There's a couple of things that we do have to watch on this. And we'll be diving into this a little bit in class. I'll show you how to get to the databases and stuff. Oopsie. All right, I'm going to ask you guys to print these things out, because especially when you get, even I print them out. It's one thing to look it up on the computer, but it's quite another thing to be able to take the piece of paper to the car and put it underneath the hood, or on the seat while I'm looking at something underneath the dash or in the trunk. For me it makes it easier. Anyways, and we'll talk about, once we get into the lab, some ways to make this easier. We can zoom in. I'm going to make you trace stuff out. Anyways, so here is a very simple part of a schematic, and we have some parts on here. Now this is the right rear marker light. And if you notice, there's some numbers here, okay? And there's some numbers here and letters here. This tells us stuff. Here is the symbol for a light bulb. And there's a bunch of symbols. Then here is the symbol for a connector. This is a plug that plugs in, okay? And as you can see, if I look at it, this plug number is right here. This is C for connector 210, and that tells us stuff. This is a 200 level connector. We'll get to this in just a minute. The 0.8 denotes the size, and the PPL tells us the color. What color do you think this is? It's purple. What about this over here? And realize that through this connector, the C210 connector, realizes this wire, it doesn't change size, 0.8 wire gauge, but it does change color. It goes from a purple to a purple/white. And what that means is there's a trace on it. It has a line, a white line on it. Get it? Okay. So we have different types of schematics. One of the ones that we run into is the power distribution schematic, and that's a separate heading. We'll talk about power distribution when we get out in the lab and once I start talking a little bit in the classroom. But realize this tells us, see this A right here, and S303, S denotes a splice. So this comes from splice S2303, which, that's actually in the back of the car because it's a 300 level splice. And then it goes to S333, which that's its different splice. And then at this splice, this is an in-harness splice. I'll show you these. I'll pass one around. It branches off to all of these things. So this powers my rear vanity light, garage door opener, right-hand front vanity mirror, left-hand front vanity mirror. All of these lights are powered off of this one line, and it goes through connector C315. 315 denotes a connector. This B over here, this is a multi multi-pronged connector. Well, pass them out. So multi-pronged connector, this denotes the cavity number in that pin, or in that plug. So I can look at this plug, find the location of it, go look at this plug, count the pins, and figure out where this orange wire is. We got to be careful. There can be multiple orange wires that are different circuits passing through the same plug. So if I'm looking for this particular orange line, and this is circuit number 640, this is a circuit number, so every time I see this 640, 640, 640, 640, this denotes it's the same wire. It's the same circuit. Get it? So I got plugs, I got designation inside the plug, the B pin, okay, because they're probably labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or however many plugs are in there. We'll talk about that. And we also have a system schematic. The system schematic shows a specific system. It doesn't show everything. Okay, so we look at the schematic and we can see here's our ignition switch, and see this dashed line around it? That tells me a dashed line on a schematic indicates two things, one of two things. It indicates that we are not seeing the entire picture, or there's a mechanical connection between these parts. So if we look at like this ignition switch right here, we're not seeing the whole thing. We don't see this right hand underhood fuse box. We don't see the whole thing. We just see the parts that are important to us. So see this right up here. This is hot at all times, hot at all times. We're not seeing where this is getting its power from. In order to see where this BAT2 or this BAT1 fuse gets its power from, I need to look upstream on a power distribution schematic, because that usually tells us where the circuit is powered from. Get it? So we generally start out with the battery or the alternator, right? Go through power distribution, then we go into system type diagrams. I'll show you how to get out at all this stuff. There are other things that this thing tells us as well. I mean, I can see the layout of this circuit. Now see this P101 right here? This P101 denotes a rubber plug. This P101 denotes the difference between inside the car, inside the cabin, and outside the cabin. Because we have to have that weather tight so, you know, water doesn't get in and, I don't know, sharks or something. I don't know. But, you know, if we look at it, here's my underhood fuse box. That's outside the car. So this red line goes through connector C101, pin C travels through P101, right? And then goes through D5, that's pin designation of C202, right? Of the ignition switch, it comes out, C202. This is the same plug, but this is pin B6, this is pin D5. Get it? Okay. So it comes out, and then it passes through P101 again. P101 is the same plug. So it travels in, and then literally right next to this thing, it travels back outside. So this is outside, underhood. This is inside, dashboard. And then it travels outside, and it goes to the neutral safety switch. Neutral safety switch is where? On this particular car, it's attached to the side of the transaxle, outside the car. Get it? So we look at this. Now this switch only passes current on park and neutral. Okay? And again, we're not seeing the whole thing. So this park and neutral line comes out on connector C, or goes in on connector C1, pin G, comes out C1, pin E. Get it? And it changes color. Well, no, this one. It changes color, red going in, yellow coming out. This one is still yellow coming out. Yellow going into the neutral safety switch, yellow coming out of the neutral safety switch, and it goes to the step deterrent relay. Get it? Then we split this circuit in half at this relay. Remember doing relays? Anyways, so we have the control side of this relay, which goes, this is B plus coming into this side. If we have B plus on one side, we need ground on the other side in order to make this work. Where's the load in this circuit? It's this relay coil. Switch, two switches, wired in series together, goes to this relay coil, and then where does it get its ground from? Well, it goes through C101. By the way, pin P, C101, is the same plug as C101 pin A. Get it? It's the same plug as C101 pin C. It's the same plug, just different pins. Pin C, pin A, pin P. Because it's a big, huge plug. Anyway, so it comes out and goes through P101 again, back to inside the car. So outside the car, that turn relay, outside the car, somewhere. P101 travels to inside the car, and that goes to the instrument cluster. Get it? Then we look at the other side. Here's my big fat battery. That's my big fat power. Big fat line comes down to my B line. This is heavy duty current going down the starter. This is the light duty current, right? C131. It's purple, goes into the starter solenoid. There's only 2 wires on the starter solenoid. Then this solenoid is basically just a relay, but it has a mechanical function of pulling this plunger in and throwing the pinion out into the flywheel in the engine. Get it? So when I energize this, that energized these 2 load coils, right? These 2 coils pull this plunger in, shifts the shift fork, throws the pinion out. More on this when we get to starters. And then the heavy-duty current is controlled, switched on by this switch right here, which that's what this dashed line means. There's a mechanical connection between this plunger and the switch. So when this plunger travels back, it flips the switch, which in turn sends heavy-duty current down to the motor, which makes the engine go stir-rrr-rrr-rrr. Like me to do that again? Sure. Stir-rrr-rrr-rrr. Okay. Anyways, so we also have another type of schematic. It's called a ground schematic. So just like, we need a power distribution, we also have a ground distribution, which is the other end of the circuit. Okay? And it shows you where the grounds are. Grounds are denoted as a G. So this is G410. This is actually on like a big truck, anyways. So G410 would be in the back of the car. They divide these up. 100 level underneath the hood, 200 level underneath the dashboard, 300 level is generally inside the car somewhere, cabin, passenger compartment, and then 400 level stuff is generally in the back of the car. They can even go to 500 level stuff, that could be, for big Suburbans and stuff, like, with more back. It's an easy way to figure out kind of where this stuff is. So if I see a 200 level ground, a 200 level connector, that stuff is underneath the dashboard. I see 100 level, that's underneath the hood. Get it? Okay.